Two people can be the same age on paper, yet one appears energetic and mentally clear, while the other already feels exhausted and old. Is aging only determined by our genes, or do our daily rhythms quietly change the speed at which we age? I'm Dr. Yuanlin Piao. I practice Chinese and integrative medicine for more than 2 decades at Peking Union Medical College Hospital in Beijing, and I have also taught Chinese medicine in both China and the United States. One lesson has stayed with me. Healthy aging is not only about adding years. It is about preserving function, clarity, and adaptability as the years pass. Today, we'll examine that idea through the first chapter of the Huangdi Neijing. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 patterns that may contribute to earlier decline: living out of rhythm, repeatedly exceeding your capacity to recover, and allowing the needs of the body and mind to become disconnected. You'll also receive a simple 7-day exercise to observe these patterns in your own life. In modern life, many of us push ourselves close to the limit. We work late, use caffeine to keep going, and move from one screen to another without a true pause. Productivity is celebrated, while the body's quieter signals are easy to ignore. A person may be only 40 or 50 and already feel chronically tired, mentally foggy, or unable to recover after stress. Meanwhile, someone of the same age may remain active, curious, and clear-minded. Genes, disease, environment, and social conditions all matter. But daily patterns matter too. The question in this episode is not whether we can stop aging. We cannot. The better question is this: can the way we live influence how well we function as we age? More than 2,000 years ago, the Huangdi Neijing asked a remarkably similar question. We turn to the Huangdi Neijing, usually translated as the Yellow Emperor's Inner Classic, a foundational collection of Chinese medical thought. Our passage comes from the first chapter of the Suwen, 上古天真论. English titles vary. You may see Discourse on the Natural Truth of Ancient Times, Discourse on the True Nature of High Antiquity, or other versions. Rather than become trapped by one title, we'll focus on the chapter's central question. Why do some people decline earlier than expected, while others preserve their abilities into old age? One of the most profound passages from this chapter states, 法于阴阳，合于术数，食饮有节，起居有常，不忘坐牢，故能形与神俱，而尽终其天年，度百岁乃去. This is a context-sensitive translation rather than a claim that every term has one fixed English equivalent. 术数 literally has a wider range than the awkward phrase, techniques, and numbers. In this passage, it can reasonably be understood as established methods or practices for regulating and cultivating life. 形 is the embodied physical form. 神 is not simply a religious soul. Here, it includes conscious presence, mental emotional activity, responsiveness, and the visible expression of life. The key phrase is 形与神俱. 形 and 神 remain together. What might that mean in practical terms? Keep that question in mind. We'll return to it near the end. The text does not say that lifestyle controls every aspect of aging. Nor should we use an ancient passage to blame people for illness, disability, or difficult circumstances. Its more useful message is that repeated daily pattern can either support or undermine our capacity to function. Let us examine 3 of these patterns. The first pattern is living against natural rhythms. The text says, 法于阴阳, to make yin and yang as a model. Yin and yang are not 2 mysterious substances. They describe paired and interdependent aspects of change, day and night, activity and rest, warming and cooling, outward engagement, and inward recovery. In this context, the phrase asks us to recognize alternation. No healthy system can remain in only one mode. Activity without recovery becomes exhaustion. Rest without appropriate activity becomes stagnation and loss of capacity. Consider sleep and wakefulness. Modern biology describes circadian rhythms, roughly 24-hour patterns coordinated by internal clocks and environmental signals, especially light. Classical Chinese medicine uses a different conceptual language, so we should not pretend yin and yang are identical to the circadian system. Still, both perspectives direct our attention to timing and regularity. Modern health guidance recognizes sleep duration, sleep quality, and a reasonably consistent schedule as important dimensions of healthy sleep. Irregular work and caregiving schedules can make consistency difficult, and sleep disorders cannot be solved by discipline alone. But when circumstances allow, repeated timing gives the body a more stable pattern in which to function. A common mistake is to think that one long sleep always cancels several nights of disruption. Actual rest may help us feel better, but it doesn't make chronic irregularity irrelevant. Another mistake is to treat tiredness only as an obstacle to productivity. Fatigue can also be information. The practical question is not, how can I force myself to keep going? It is, what pattern keeps producing this fatigue, and what part of that pattern can I realistically change? This is where an ancient principle becomes a modern observation tool. This brings us a crucial point. Our bodies thrive on predictability and rhythm. But this raises a more important question. What happens when we consistently consume more than our body can restore? The second pattern is repeatedly demanding more than we can restore. The Huangdi Neijing presents this idea through a sharp contrast with the disciplined life described earlier. Here is the complete sentence. so that we do not remove the words from their context. 一时之人不然也，以酒为浆，以妄为常。醉已入房，以欲竭其精，以好散其真，不知持满，不识欲神，不快其心，逆生于乐，起居无节，故半百而衰也。This is a moralizing passage by modern standards, but its clinical observation is still recognizable. Repeated excess without adequate recovery can lead to earlier decline. One important term is jing. Jing cannot be reduced to sperm, a hormone, DNA, or any single anatomical substance. Across classical Chinese medicine, its meaning changes with context. It can refer to refined nutritive substance, reproductive capacity, and the material basis associated with growth, development, maturation, and reproduction. In this passage, exhausting Jing warns against consuming foundational capacity through unstrained desire and behavior. That is a traditional Chinese medical interpretation, not a modern laboratory measurement. Notice that the sentence is broader than sexual behavior alone. It also names heavy drinking, excess as a habit, pursuit of immediate gratification, failure to preserve what is sufficient, and an irregular daily life. The unifying problem is not pleasure itself. The problem is loss of measure. 食饮有节 in the earlier passage means that food and drink have 节, a limit, rhythm, or appropriate measure. 不忘坐牢 does not condemn work or exercise. It warns against reckless exertion. Chinese medicine is not asking us to become passive. It asks whether expenditure and restoration remain proportionate over time. Modern medicine describes aging through very different models, including genetics, accumulated cellular damage, metabolic health, cardiovascular risk, physical function, cognition, and social conditions. Research associates regular physical activity with healthier aging, while chronic psychological stress is associated with several biological pathways relevant to aging. These findings do not prove the classical concept of Jing, and Jing should not be equated with telomeres or inflammation. The responsible comparison is narrower. Both classical observation and modern research give us reasons to take repeated behavior, recovery, and stress seriously. This leads us to our third crucial point, the intricate connection between our physical body and our mind. The third pattern is losing coordination between the embodied person and mental emotional life. The text says, 形与神俱, the physical form and the shen remain together. Shen is often translated as spirit, but that single word can mislead an English-speaking audience. In Chinese medicine, shen can refer to consciousness, awareness, mental emotional activity, responsiveness, and the quality of presence expressed through the eyes, speech, and behavior. Its meaning depends on context. Here, I understand the phrase as a picture of an embodied person whose physical life and conscious presence remain integrated. The integration is practical, not mystical. You may know the experience of eating without noticing the food because your attention is on the screen. Continuing to work while the body is clearly exhausted, or lying in bed while the mind is still holding 10 unfinished conversations. The body is in one place, but attention and behavior do not respond to what the body is communicating. The classical phrase invites coordination. Can awareness register fatigue, hunger, satiety, agitation, and the need for movement or rest? Can action respond appropriately? This does not mean that anxiety, depression, insomnia, or cognitive symptoms are caused by weak character or a scattered spirit. Such symptoms may require professional assessment and treatment. Modern research links chronic stress with multiple processes relevant to health and aging, but the relationships are complex. Stress exposure, biology, behavior, social economic conditions, and illness influence one another. Telomere studies are often discussed in this area, but telomere length is not a simple personal age score, and it is not the same thing as Shen or Jing. The most useful practical point is modest. A mind kept in continual threat and a body denied adequate recovery do not support healthy functioning. Calm is not achieved by ordering ourselves to relax. It is cultivated through repeatable conditions: sleep, movement, supportive relationships, realistic boundaries, medical care when needed, and moments in which attention returns to the body. A common misconception is that a strong mind should override physical limits. Determination is valuable, but ignoring every bodily signal is not resilience. The opposite misconception is that healthy aging requires a perfectly calm life. That is also unrealistic. The goal is adaptability. Activity followed by recovery, challenge followed by adjustment, and mental purpose that remains connected with physical capacity. In this sense, 形与神俱 describes coherence rather than perfection. So we have explored how living against natural rhythm, consuming more than the body can restore, and losing coordination between body and mind can accelerate aging. Now, let's turn to some practical ways we can apply this ancient wisdom in our daily lives. If you would like to apply these ideas, I have created a simple 7-day health rhythm check. Each morning, you will record 2 observations about sleep. Each evening, you will record 3 observations about your day. I'll post the complete exercise in the community section, so you can save it and try it at your own pace. The Huangdi Neijing offers a historical and clinical framework for thinking about health. It is not a substitute for individualized diagnosis or treatment. Fatigue, sleep disturbance, weight change, cognitive difficulty, or reduced function may have medical, psychological, medication-related, or social causes. persistent or significant symptoms deserve professional evaluation. Use this episode for reflection and education, not self-diagnosis. Let us summarize the 3 points. First, respect rhythm. Alternate activity and recovery, and make daily timing as regular as your circumstances reasonably allow. Second, respect measure. Notice when repeated demand is greater than your ability to restore. Third, protect coordination between xing and shen. Allow awareness, emotion, behavior, and physical capacity to inform one another. Now we can answer our opening question. What does it mean for xing与神俱? For xing and shen to remain together until the natural end of life. I do not interpret this as a supernatural promise or a guarantee of living past 100. I understand it as an ideal of preserved wholeness. The body continues to support participation in life, while awareness and emotional presence remain embodied and responsive. The text point is not that aging disappears. Its point is that avoidable disorder and excess need not become our normal way of living. If you'd like to understand Chinese medicine beyond quick tips and explore the deeper logic of the Huangdi Neijing, please subscribe to the channel. In the comments, tell me 2 things. One daily habit that reliably restores you, and one that leaves you depleted. Your answer may help another viewer notice the same pattern. In the next episode, we'll explore how daily and seasonal rhythms affect health through Suwen Chapter 2, 四气调神大论. You can continue with the Huangdi Neijing playlist on the screen. Thank you for joining. Observe your rhythm, respect your limits, and I'll see you in the next episode.